What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. You're here with your best girl, Sarah, and I'm here with my best girl, Sav. Sav, how's it going?
Hi guys, I am doing well. I am channeling my inner 10-year-old in my overall shorts. And I
Cute.
took a selfie of myself before this started because I was like, I think I've decided that I feel in the top five most myself in this outfit. Is like a tank top and my shorts overalls from Levi's and my Birkenstocks. And that's just who I am. And it's not extremely stylish, and I don't add a bunch of accessories to make it extremely stylish. But because this episode is going to be my birthday episode, in which I am turning 28, in which I am officially in my late 20s and can no longer say mid-20s without sounding like I'm in denial, I am channeling my inner 10-year-old, and I'm proud of it. But I'm also coming with ailments, physical ailments that are really unfortunate because Calvin, our 14, almost 15-month-old, is getting his molars. And so since he
Oh,
is teething and getting his molars, he is taking quite a long time to go to sleep. And so the last few nights, the only way he's been able to fall asleep at night is when I'm holding him with his head like on my shoulder, because I think it's something with like if they're when they're laying down, it hurts worse because it gets kind of in their ear. It hurts in their
hmm.
ears, which is so sad. And it's like it's just a different kind of cry, and it's like so heartbreaking. So I'll let him like lay his head on my shoulder, but I'm holding him with my right arm. And so there is a pinch of massive degree in my right shoulder blade that I tried to get Christian to like massage with serious aggression out of my shoulder with a Theragun last night. And I woke up, I was like, I am injured. I have an injury now. I'm in so much pain. Um,
Oh
so I
no.
am in overalls, but I also have some physical ailments that I need to deal with as a 28-year-old
And if
as of
that's not the
tomorrow.
late 20s, I
Yeah.
don't know
That
what
is
is.
I've thought that thought multiple times recently. One of my least favorite things about getting older is that I wake up with just like I'm just sore. I have an achy back. I'm like I didn't think I was going to get here. I really didn't. I thought that my body was going to carry me with like
Yeah.
its full force of strength for all of my days, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm coming face to face with that's she's getting old, guys. She's getting old.
She's getting
Her
old.
back is getting achy.
There's nothing worse than when like the mind is willing but the body is weak. That is just like from whether you're injured or just getting older. We were at dinner last night and my dad said something like, "Yeah, you really kind of your eyesight starts going downhill right around 40." Like 40?
Oh my
He's like, "I have
gosh.
20/20 vision." True story. He's like, "I have 20/20 vision. I could see my entire life." I'm telling you, when I woke up, I would turn 40. I needed readers. Like I needed like cheater, like assistance glasses. 'Cause he's like, it just kind of starts to go. And I'm like, I used to think 40 was decrepit. And now I'm like, we're basically almost kind of
We're
40.
on the edge. We're basically we might as well be 40.
We may as well be 40. No, I love what you said though earlier about like this is a top five outfit that you feel like yourself. And that has just made me now want to think like outfits that I feel like myself. Because I do feel
Mm.
like the current trend that we're in is like finally fashion's going my way. Fine. After I'll be at 28, almost 29 years, finally fashion is going my way. And I feel like there are just some, I know how to get dressed now. And I don't hate getting dressed because now I know how to get dressed and I know how to dress myself in a way that feels comfortable. And part of me is like almost kind of disappointed that I'm going to be working from home because I've kind of sort of started to like getting dressed for my day. Um, but I think that's a cool exercise. I think everybody should think about outfits that make you feel like not your most stylish or cutest, just like the outfits that make you feel most like yourself. I love
Yeah,
that. That's cool.
exactly. I feel like that's a telltale sign of good style too. Because I've
Hmm.
been thinking about that a lot recently. Like there's a lot of people that you look at and you would consider them stylish, but a lot of them are probably just following trends. And it's
Hmm.
so easy if you think about now compared to like 30 years ago, the men and women that you would think of as stylish, it's like they truly are just wearing what they feel good in. Compared to
Hmm.
now, we have the access to see what everybody in the world is wearing, who have access to like all the money in the world to buy whatever they want. And
Hmm.
it's like it's so easy to just copy and to copy and
Yep.
paste and to like get inspiration, quote unquote, but you're really just like making a replica of what somebody else has already done rather than like
Hmm.
I know that these here shorts from Levi's, not the most stylish thing in the world, but I feel like it makes me feel like 19-year-old Savannah who just came to know the Lord, and she's like
Love.
just a crunchy little girl at Montevallo.
But that's
Spams, who I'm always gonna
feeling
be.
like yourself. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Like I probably feel the most, and there's actually a specific sports bra and leggings. It is my Stunic. Shout out to Jasmine. My Stunic. It's like a black bra, black leggings. They both fit me like a glove. And like that outfit barefoot, I feel stunning. Like it doesn't matter like what my makeup is, it doesn't matter what my hair is. I could be feeling like just down in the dumps about my body. I could be having one of those weird body image days, and like put me in the studio in that outfit. I'm locked in. Like this is like,
Yeah.
I look great. I feel great. Another one is like just an oversized t-shirt and some sort of shorts. Like I feel comfortable. And I think you and I can both say this because we have tried to wear outfits that we weren't comfortable in, but we wore them because like it's what we thought we were supposed to wear.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. And I feel like I'm finally getting to a headspace where like I'm not trying to wear things that don't look good for my body type. I feel like for a really long time I would try to wear things that other girls wore, and I would be so discouraged when it didn't look on me like it looked like on her. But now I'm like, I don't even look, it doesn't even cross my mind. I don't go to websites or to stores that the clothes just aren't cut for me. Like I don't even like want it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a cool, I feel like, evolution.
Yeah. It's giving grown up.
It's giving we're growing up.
Yeah.
It's giving the gals are growing up, which is such a real thing. And life update wise for me, I mean, it's on most of the same. I feel like since we started talking about this whole growing up thing, I feel like it has just presented itself so many times consistently. But not this isn't even a growing up story what I'm about to tell, but this happened this past week at work, and I just thought it was so funny that I just want to tell you about it. So and I would say stop me if I've told you already, but like don't stop me because I am talking to like now like 100 plus other people, so even if you have heard it, like just buckle up, Savannah. Sorry.
I will act as surprised as you want me to,
because I really can't remember if I told you this or not. But I was thinking the other day, and this is like in a work setting, mostly in a work setting, but also sometimes in my personal life, when people are talking to me about things and I don't care. And they think that I care, but I don't care. And it's mostly in a work setting. And it's mostly someone who is trying to get me to give them my company's business. You know, I work in an area where like I work with a handful of kind of third party vendors, whether it's through insurance or real estate or whatever it may be. And I'm making decisions a lot of times that go outside of just the four walls of my company, like whatever. So a lot of people telling me information, and I'm very like, I'm the first one to say that, hey, my degree's not in HR or IT, so I'm always open to learn more. But like when people start telling me stuff I either already know, or they're telling me, you know, stuff that I'm like, I already know, but I don't want to be rude and cut you off. There's a day last week where I was just listening to somebody talk and I was like, I don't care. And I didn't say this, but I just wanted to stop them and be like, I just want you to know that like in the most respectful way possible, save your breath. Because like I don't care. Like I don't like what you're talking to me about is just like, can we cut to the chase? Like I asked you a question. Can you just answer it instead of trying to give me this whole spiel because you feel like I need it? Like if you're doing this for my benefit, like please stop. Now if you're doing it for your benefit, I'm happy to sit here. But if you're doing it for my benefit, please don't. And it brought me back to, so that was happening this week and it was just getting on my nerves. And I say this, and somebody might be saying, well, yeah, Sarah, that's easy for you to say, but how many times are you the person that's saying things to somebody that they don't care about? Because I get it. I'm a chatter. I'm a chatty gal. I'm a yapper. I have a podcast. I get it. I like to talk. And it's really easy to say that I hate when people go on and on and on without giving me a direct answer. But it's like, well, Sarah, don't you do the same thing to other people? Yes, I do. And somebody called me out on it and I loved it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say lost it. You loved it. Okay.
No, I loved it. I was like, and it was someone who works for me. It was somebody who works for me. So I'm their boss, and they did it to me. And I was like, I'm going to give you a raise. I'm going to give you a raise because I love it. That's the energy this team needs to be on. So it was pretty early in the morning, and I made my team, not made, but I asked my team to come in at 6 a.m. for 3 days in a row a couple of weeks ago because we really just needed to get a project done. And I'm like, sorry, guys, we just got to grind. Everyone just needs to be here bright and early. Mm-hmm. And so I, being the great boss that I am, even though I cannot help them with what they're doing because it's very like software IT-ish in nature, I was like, I'm still going to be there with you guys in the room. I'll get an early start on my day. And so I was bringing in like the Starbucks travelers, like the big things. And I had two of them. And I just needed help bringing them in because you really can't carry them just like this. You have to kind of carry them under. Yeah. And I call this guy that works for me. And I was like, hey, will you come downstairs and help me carry these up? And he said, do you need the cart? He's like, do I need to bring a cart? And I was like, well, no. And I mean, it's something that I could carry up by myself, but like, you're really just not supposed to. And he cut me off. He's like, hey, Sarah, just wanted to know if I need to bring the cart. And I was like,
so you got me here at 6. Words have got to be less.
He's like, do you want me to bring the cart? Yes or no? And I was like, great question. No, I do not. Just bring yourself. Thank you so much. And I hung up the phone and I was like, I normalize cutting people off. Normalize cutting people off. Because at the end,
in a respectful way.
In a respectful way. Like, hey, like, I know that you're saying this. I just needed to know this. Like, and I know that you think that you're giving me this whole spiel for like my benefit, but like you're not. And I love that. Normalize, do it to me. Like, y'all do it to me. Like, please. Now, if you do disrespectfully, I do reserve the right to keep talking. But I just really respected it. And I love that, like, I have this rapport with him now where, like, he'll start doing it to me. Like, he'll start going on and on and on about some IT thing that I don't care about. And I'm just like, hey, man, like, wrap it up. Like, I'll even start doing this. I'm like, wrap it up. Land the plane, dog. Land the plane. Land the plane. I don't really care. And I'm like, can you just give me the direct answer? And then if I need more context, can I go back and ask? Like, yeah, I just don't need the preamble. And so I just feel like that should be normalized in especially corporate culture, because a lot of times people think they're talking to you for your benefit and really it's just to hear themselves talk. If I wanted to hear myself talk, I would come on my own podcast. But like, I want other people to just like start cutting me off if it's not relevant information.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. The issue is that I don't know if the people in my life that I'm thinking of as you're saying these things, I don't know that they feel the same way. But like I have two people in my life who are very close to me who they love. It's like a specific, and I've called one of them on it before. It's my husband.
She's trying to be discreet. It's my husband.
I won't say who the other one is, legit. But like I've called him on it, and he's basically like, whatever, I really don't care if it bothers you. I'm still gonna do it. But it's like when people go on and on about like the intricate details of their job and like they're explaining something and the technicality of the systems that they're working in to try to like get a point across, I'm like, I'm short circuiting as you're like, please stop talking. But like, I'm not gonna say that to my husband in the moment. I'm like, I have my physical energy is draining out of me as you're trying to explain this to me.
No, that's exactly how I feel with this other individual. And I feel like you're absolutely right. I don't think that I can have this relationship with everyone as much as I would love to, because I think the world would be a more efficient place. But I'm so thankful that I do not feel like I need to, like, I can go like this. Like, yeah, come on. Like, that's a very like confident team, self-confident team that they don't get offended by that. Exactly. No, but I think that it's cool that it can go both ways. Like, I think there are some bosses who would like tell their person to hurry it up, but as soon as the other person tells them to hurry it up, they would be offended. Yeah. But I was kind of like, not to like toot my own horn, but I was like, okay. Like, he cut me off and I was like, all right, no, you're right. No, I don't need the cart. Come on. Just bring yourself. That's so great. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I don't know if I'm sure if me and you feel this way, other people have to feel this way. We're like, you just your attention span cannot bear the weight of other people's words for another second longer.
Yeah.
What do you guys do when that happens? I'm trying to normalize cutting people off. I don't think I'm going to be successful, but what do you guys do when you just literally can't anymore?
It's so bad too when it's somebody that you're close to, because it's like the way that my eyes tend to go like, and I hope you guys are watching. You guys have to watch this on YouTube, but like I literally will start like looking around the room like, yeah, I'm like, Savannah, do not look at your phone. Do not look at your phone as this story is being told. You asked how his day was. Listen.
Better buckle up, sister. Better buckle up.
Oh, it's tough.
No, yeah. You guys got to tell us what you guys do when you guys get bored out of your mind in the middle of someone talking, please. But anyway, so that's literally all that's going on with me. Had a little beach trip with the fam over the weekend.
Very fun.
Getting closer to getting married. I think I'm in the 40s number of days until. So yeah, all good things over here. All good things.
Love. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we have a new segment that we're introducing.
Yeah,
today.
guys. Oh, so much new stuff. We're loving it.
So much new stuff.
August is the month of new.
I'm going to let you intro this because I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot the latter half of the episode. But tell the people what we're doing and what we're calling it.
So I feel like we are always wanting to know what you guys think and what you like and what you don't like. And we solicited some feedback a little while ago from just a handful of people who we know are like consistent Call Me Thursday listeners who, and I'm sure there are, at least in my mind, there are so many of you who are consistent listeners, but just the ones who have reached out to us and been like, hey, we love what you guys are doing. We love the podcast. We reached out to a handful of them and just asked like, what do you think would make the podcast better? And one of the ideas we got was like having some sort of like regular segment. And so we took some time and we're kind of thinking about like, well, what makes sense for us and what do we like? And what are some other podcasts? Like, what do they do that we like? And I think that we're kind of always recommending what kind of content we're consuming, like whether it is a creator on TikTok or a YouTuber or a book or a podcast. We're always recommending something. And so, and I think too, also, and this, Sav, we didn't talk about this, but even the more I think about it, going back to like 2020 and COVID, I think Sav and I, we would text each other all the time and be like, I've been influenced. Like, this is what I bought today. Like, this is where the internet's got me once again. Like, I bought this like battery powered like face washer thing with like 10 attachments. I think Sav bought like every tanning oil drops like under the sun.
Yeah.
So like, as much as you might think listening to this podcast that we don't rag on influencers or social media. We just realize the place that they have in the world. And we also know that we are prone to be consumed just as much as everybody else. So call us content consumers. Here it goes. This is what we've been consuming this week. I will start if it is okay.
Please.
Mine is, it's a little historical podcast. Now, I haven't made it all the way through every episode, but it's called Bagman. And it is, the host is Rachel Maddow, she works for MSNBC. And I'll tell you guys too, if you follow me on Instagram personally, and even if you listen to this podcast, like I am such a believer in listening to everything. Like I've listened to several episodes of Tucker Carlson's podcast, Rachel Maddow's podcast, like across different networks, across different belief systems. Like I'm just a big like consume everything girly. But this podcast that Rachel Maddow did, it's not really like a political commentary, but it is more of like a historical podcast. And it's about, so Richard Nixon's vice president was named Spiro Agnew. And he was like what are you laughing at? What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because I didn't realize this until now, but remember how one of your sister Allison's boyfriends in high school, we used to call him Spiro because his last name was Agnew. And I never knew where we got that from.
What? Funny. You just unlocked a memory because I completely forgot about that. But you're 110% correct.
We will come up with some crazy nicknames for boyfriends. I'm telling you. Christian was called Hugo Scissorhands at one point. Dating relationship. Don't ask me how we got there. I don't know. That's what
I'm saying. Like, these nicknames are not just for the sake of the podcast. We've been doing this our entire friendship. We have been doing it literally our entire friendship. Savannah's absolutely correct. There was a boyfriend of my sister's who we called him Spiro. And I think at the time, you're right, we did not realize that was Richard Nixon's vice president.
I wouldn't have connected those dots.
But nonetheless, and I definitely did not realize that when I was listening to this podcast today. But he was like a criminal in the White House. And he was like, whenever he was like the Baltimore, I don't know, he was like in charge of like a county or a town in Maryland. Then he was the mayor of Maryland. Then he was the vice president. And like he would do these like quid pro quo deals where he would give people government contracts in exchange for money, and which is illegal, I guess. And but in the podcast too, so they talked about how his criminal scandal was going on at the same time as like the Watergate scandal under Richard Nixon. So all of that was happening at the same time. And how this like Spiro guy was like very similar. She doesn't draw the exact parallels in the podcast, but it sounds like this guy is pretty similar to like the Donald Trump that we know, like very much like kind of attack dog energy against like liberals, against different like against the media. Like he did not like the media. And so, but it was interesting because the way she framed it, I guess, or the way she told the story was like he would attack the media, and then when like the media would hold him accountable, it's like, well, they're just going after me, this is a witch hunt, this is whatever. And it's like almost like he provoked the media, knowing that he was going to get caught doing something wrong, and knowing that he would use his like punches at the media as saying, see, they're just retaliating, this is a witch hunt. When it's like, no, like actually you did do something wrong and you are being held accountable, but you're just saying that other people are attacking you to make yourself look like the victim. And again, she didn't draw exact parallels to the former president or anything like that, but it was just very familiar, and almost to how he, like during Spiro Agnew's time, like coming into the White House, there were like kind of ethnic hater groups, like kind of bad faith actors who were using his words as like kind of fuel to their fire. And how I think a lot of similar things happen with the former president, how maybe he doesn't say anything directly, or he says it but it's kind of veiled, and other groups though use that to kind of fuel their fire in like a not positive and healthy way. So it's a historical podcast. It's about Nixon's vice president. The host does not draw direct parallels to the former president, but I think just anybody can probably tell that that's kind of what they're trying to do. And I thought that it was really interesting. And it is cool too, because I was strangely comforted by it, because it's like, okay, so this is not the first time that there's been this much chaos out of Washington.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it's easy to be like, well, we're in unprecedented times. And like, sure, global pandemic, I mean, you know, whatever. Global pandemic, you know, racial tension, crazy election, whatever. Sure, it's pretty nuts. But I think I was strangely comforted by I only listened to like the first like 4 or 5 episodes of the podcast. But I was strangely comforted by it, because I was like, see, this wasn't even that long ago. Like my parents were born, like I think in the first Nixon administration. So it's not that long ago. And we survived. Like we're going to be okay. So that's my, the thing that has been like the content that I've been consuming. I shouldn't say that's been consuming me, but it's what I've been consuming. And I think it's pretty good. So we'll link it in the show notes. It's called Bagman. Hope you guys listen to it. I think it's pretty good so far.
A good rec. You're definitely a historical nonfiction girl. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I had a few that I was having a hard time picking from, but I think the one I'll go with is, so you guys have probably heard of The Daily, which is the New York Times daily podcast that they do that usually just highlights like one big news story each day. But the New York Times has a good handful of podcasts that they do, and the one that I am so into right now is the New York Times book review. And that is because I'm so into my reading fiction season of life right now. The word era is giving me such an ick right now, so I'm kind of
coming out of that as well.
Yeah, I don't like era, but
I do need another word to replace it.
Yeah, and season of life feels like wordy. So if anybody has any suggestions, let us know. But I'm very into fiction right now, just reading fiction books and just having like a greater appreciation for it. Because I think for a long time I felt like reading fiction was kind of like a waste of time in a way. But honestly, I mean, after talking to Heather last week and her whole synopsis about like how storytelling can be so life-changing and it can like touch different parts of you, regardless of whether or not it's like on paper very clearly trying to teach you a life lesson. It's like storytelling is so innate to us as humans. And so I am loving reading fiction right now. And the New York Times Book Review, they'll do, I think it's weekly. But they do like they'll interview different authors that have books that are coming out or books that have done really well. They did the episode that got me really hooked on it a few weeks ago was they did a kind of like the combined list that a bunch of different authors and readers had voted on for what people consider to be the 100 best books of the 21st century so far.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was so interesting. So yeah, it's like people who their full-time job is to read books and then talk about them on the podcast, which I'm like, dang, what a cool job. But I'm loving it. It's really good. It's like the format changes a lot. Like they do different stuff week to week, so it doesn't feel like it gets super repetitive, and it inspires me to expand my TBR list. So that's what I'm consuming these days.
TBR?
To be read.
Oh,
Yeah.
to be read.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a Pinterest board
signs
called
you're
TBR.
not in the reading community. I am not in the
TBR,
reading community, not one single bit. Because I'm like, TB what? I follow one person on Goodreads, and it's Darian. Shout out to Darian.
Darian.
That's all I know about. But I did finish a book when I was at the beach over the weekend. I did finish. I always when I sit down to read, I'm like, I'm gone. Like I'm in it. Like, and so, and I don't read very often, but when I do, I tear it up. And I started this book at 14% on Friday, and I had finished it by like Saturday afternoon.
Oh,
Like
that's what a beach trip is for.
Went
so
nuts.
Good. What book was
crazy? The Perfect Couple, Ellen Hilderbrand.
Oh, I've heard Ellen Hilderbrand is a good one. The New York Times, the book review did an interview with her recently.
Really?
So you should listen
Maybe
to
I'd
it.
like that. I might like that because she I've been on my John Grisham grind, and I just heard that this book was really good, and that it was a murder mystery that you were never going to guess who did it. And so I read the book, and also it helps that it's getting in Netflix. I don't know if it's like a movie or a show in September. Okay. And so I do want to read that, or I do want to watch that. So I tried to read the book first. But it was really good. I would recommend. I mean, it wasn't like the best book of my life, but
yeah. Is her writing, because this, and I really shouldn't judge books, quite literally judging a book by its cover. But like when I look at the Ellen Hilderbrand book covers, they look very like beach rom-com kind of vibe, which is fine, but it's just not usually my book of choice. But does she write like that? Like, does it feel really shallow? Feels like kind of a mean word, but you know what I'm saying? Like, is it good?
It's meant, I think it's like the general plot of the book, and again, it's coming from someone who's not a huge reader. It's like there's a wedding in Rhode Island, Nantucket.
Yes,
shout out
Nantucket. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's a wedding in Nantucket, and the book starts with the maid of honor has been found dead on the beach, and it's like it's this whole murder mystery of like, how did she die, who done it, and it goes into all the characters' different backstories. And so it's definitely not like a makes you think and reflect on life. Like, I closed it and I'm like, I'm done now. You know, like it's done. It's not going to like leave an imprint on you. I mean, I think that I identified with the main female character, I guess, a little bit because of like, she's really close with her parents. But yeah, it's good for the beach, good for the weekend, good for a plane ride,
entertainment, like
great entertainment. Like, it really was once you got to really the whole thing, I couldn't put it down, but once I got to about probably 85%, 75, 85, like I thought I had the whole thing figured out. I will say that. I thought I had it figured out until about 85% of the way through, and I was like, wait, what? Like,
and then it flipped you? Oh, that's so
and then
good.
I was like, oh gosh, wait, no, now I seriously can't put it down, because like now I just need to be done. And the end I didn't throw the Kindle in shock, but I was like, oh no, yeah, okay, I didn't see this. This was not the obvious choice.
Okay.
But the obvious choice was so obvious that I was like, it has to be this person. And then right around towards the end, it was like, oh gosh, like now I need to keep going because I really need to know. So it was great entertainment book, but not gonna like, you're not gonna like talk to your therapist about it or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
Well, love. That's I'm gonna put it on my list. It's going on the TBR.
No. TBR, to be read. Yeah, and I really am in need for another new book because we're going to the beach in like 3 weeks, and I need another beach read.
Oh,
read. So I need another
gosh.
like easy peasy beach read, but one that's not spicy. And that's why I really loved having Heather on. Guys, we're going to stop talking about this conversation with Heather, maybe eventually, but also maybe we're not, because it marked this deeply. So if you guys have not listened,
don't be intimidated by the 90-minute runtime. Okay,
please
just go commit and watch or
half
listen.
Half of me wanted to like call you and Heather and be like, should we do like an Instagram live like together to like review the pod? I feel like we need to have a book club, but podcast club. Like I feel like we needed to talk about it again because we were just so marked by it. Yeah. But one of the things that Heather talked about that she just briefly mentioned that I loved was like some like kind of easy peasy rom-coms that weren't super spicy, because that's the other thing. This book had like a little bit of spice in it that was like, oh no, I probably don't want to like, give a copy to my grandmother or anything.
Right.
But I just don't want like books that make me feel dirty. I don't want that. It's just
no pearl clutching.
Not my genre. No, not my genre. Yeah.
I feel that.
But anyway, so that's a little bit about the content that we're consuming. Call us content consumers, girlies. We're also content creators because we are putting out this podcast. But in other news, half an hour into this, this book is coming out. What? This podcast is coming out. We're actually authors. We're content consumers, creators, and we're coming out with a book. Surprise! Just kidding.
Nobody's kidding. Like that. It's not.
Nobody's like that. But this podcast is coming out on your 28th birthday eve.
Yes.
Your last day of being 27. And you guys, if you've listened to Call Me Thursday for any amount of time, Sav doesn't really fool with like the new year. Like she's like, that's for the rest of you guys. Her real new year is her birthday. So she, in true, like, I feel like for fashion, like I'm going to be unique. And I'm not going to go by the rest of you clowns like new year starting in January. Her new year actually starts in August. And so that means it's almost your New Year time. So
it's extremely self-centered of me, but yeah.
It's birthday review. I call it personalized. Self-centered. No, personalized. Yeah. Custom. It's a custom New Year. But no, I feel like we have, even when I first started talking about like growth and feeling like, okay, I'm being called to grow up a little bit. You're like, I feel like I'm kind of in that same energy, but I'm just not in a place where it's been processed well enough yet to talk about it. Yeah. So now here we are on the podcast, and you got something on your heart to talk about, and it's almost your birthday. Yeah. So I'm excited to hear what's going on in your head, sister.
Yeah. I come bearing notes. Oh, sorry. I come bearing pink notes with pink ink all over my hands, like the five-year-old coloring child that I am in my overalls. So Sarah, you're right. I do kind of customize all of my like reflection time, and I feel like I still have, because we're recording this the Sunday before the episode comes out, and so I still have some time probably like on my proper birthday that I'll spend doing some reflection time too. But I think I spent a good amount of time the past week or so just thinking through, like reflecting on the past year and all that's happened and all the growth that has occurred, and then just like what I feel like God is kind of stirring in me for being 28, but also almost more so 28 and 29 going into 30. So like things that I want to like have resolved in my life before I turn 30. So I have this broken up into 3 bullet points each. And I will be referring to my notes over here. Love. I kind of broke it up into like three things that I learned as a 27-year-old, and then 3 things that I'm hoping for in 28/28 and 29. So first thing from reflections from 27 is double-mindedness and trying to pave your own path only leads to torment, literal torment. And what I mean by that is there's a verse in Isaiah chapter 50. I'm going to read it so I don't butcher it. But it's Isaiah 50:11, and it talks about, but now all you who light fires and provide yourselves with flaming torches, go walk in the light of your fires and of the torches that you have set ablaze. This is what you shall receive from my hand. You will lie down in torment. And I feel like in the past like couple of months, that has been echoing in my head because you guys have kind of heard me talk about the whole back and forth and grappling and wrestling that Christian and I have been going through with. I quit my job back in March, and we thought like, oh, this is going to be the long-term thing for us to be a single income family for the most part, with me just kind of doing like some part-time freelance work basically until our kids go to school. Like after we're done having children and our kids go to school, then I'll go back to full-time work. But we're kind of coming to a season of like, part of it is that the economy is crap and like it's really expensive to exist, and the going to a single income lifestyle has been really, really sweet in some ways, and has given us so much margin and flexibility, and we're incredibly grateful for it. And it's like for the first year plus of Calvin's life, he's been able to be at home with us, whether it's with one or both of us working or me just being home with him. And it's been so, so great. But we're kind of starting to feel a little bit of an itch for like to like have some fun. And in order to have fun in a lot of ways, you have to have more money. And so we still don't know what the logistics of that is going to look like. But to bring this full circle back to what I was saying about lighting your own torch, I think as soon as I started to feel that itch, I'm like on LinkedIn applying for jobs, interviewing at places, trying to like get a plan in place. And I had multiple interviews lined up, and I felt like the Lord was like on my heart, like with his finger was like, cancel the interviews. Like you are trying to light your own torch and pave a path just because you have an itch right now. And like, not saying the itch is bad, but like, slow it down, sister. Like you don't have to pave your own path. And I know that it was a bad thing, and it wasn't necessarily from the Lord that I was like being led to do this, at least not right this second, because I was so stressed. Like Sarah asked me this on an episode previously, like, how do you know? Or no, this was just a phone call.
I think it's on a phone call.
This is just a phone call.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
asked
phone
like
call.
when you're constantly like knocking on doors and seeking out opportunity or whatever, how do you know that the opportunity is the right door to walk through? And it was like several weeks later that I came back and was like, I finally have words for this. That like when I feel like my mind is in chaos and I'm trying to fit the puzzle pieces together and something's not working, but I'm trying to like force it to work, that's how I know that it's not the right thing. And that's just kind of how I was feeling. And so, like I said, we're still figuring out what that even looks like. But all I know is like, I'm not trying to light my own torch on this one. It's just like, if a door opens, then we're probably going to walk through it, but nothing's opened yet. So we'll just see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first thing. Second one for reflections from 27, is that because if you guys had listened to my birthday episode last year, one of my goals for being 27 is having more capacity. But it's been like borderline comical that knowing, like understanding and experiencing having an expanded capacity, but also understanding and like experiencing how limited you are as a human being, especially a human being with a child. Like those two things can exist at the same time. Because I think that like I have seen my capacity expanded, and that prayer has totally been answered in a lot of ways. And like Christian, my husband, looks at me multiple times a week and is like, I don't understand how you do everything that you do when you're also caring for Calvin. And I'm like,
Wow.
same. Ditto.
Yeah.
I also don't know. But I'm like, in those moments, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I do have more capacity than what I ever thought I could have. But at the same time, constantly running up again, like I get to the end of the day and I have 2 hours of work that I need to get done. And I'm like, I literally don't have it in me tonight. Like, I'm just going to go to bed. And just like embracing that limitation, and not trying to fight against it, and just like accepting that I'm human and that my energy is capped and I'm not a superwoman.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. Those two things like existing at the same time.
And I feel like that does speak so much to like the growing up thing of like grown-ups understand like energy management. Like I heard somebody say on a podcast I was listening to the other day, like as you got older, like what was more important, like time management or energy management. And the person on the podcast said, like, when I was younger, it was all about time management. Like, how can I manage my time in such a way that I can like shove as much as I can into my schedule?
Yeah.
But then the older I get, the more I'm like, it's all about energy management. Like, I
Mhm.
understand that I have the time to do more, but I don't have the energy to do more. Therefore, I have to manage my energy, knowing that there's going to be more time than there is energy. Whereas when I was younger, there was more energy than there was time. It's like I could
That's
keep
so
going. You know, I
true.
could keep going. I could do 100 things. Like, I have way more energy than a 24-hour day allows. But now it's like, man, my energy capacity is shrinking with age. And now it's
Mhm.
more about energy management than time management. And I thought that that was super wise,
I
actually.
love it. That's so helpful. Like, that's such perfect language for it.
Hmm.
Because again, it's like, dude, I'm 28. I didn't think I was gonna come against stuff like this till I was like late 40s at the absolute earliest. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the energy gets capped. I'm like, I don't have the even just when it comes to like staying up late and then having to get up early the next morning.
Hmm.
Christian and I both, like when we were in college, it was so normal for us to go to
Yeah.
bed at 1 and wake up at 5 for something the next day. And we were like,
Yeah.
whatever. Give me a cold brew, I'll be fine. And now we're
Exactly.
both like, oh, I'm a zombie. I'm a
Yeah.
zombie and I'm not pleasant to be around. So I have to
Yeah.
get sleep. Um, that's really helpful though. And then the last one for reflections from 27 is I'm realizing how I am obsessed to a fault with seeing how the puzzle pieces of life fit together. And I talked about this on the episode with Heather, but
Mhm.
this past episode, because I think that like it's a gift in some ways, but in a lot of ways, it's like that's not always my information to have or like mine to know.
Mm.
And like, who am I to think that I should know and understand how every puzzle piece of my life and my family's life is going to fit together to make sense when we're literally in our 20s? Like, we're not
Yeah.
always going to understand why things are happening or why we feel like this move is right, or like even just all this stuff with why did I quit my job? Why did we move to Denver? Why did all of these things play out the way that they played out if it's not going how we expected it to?
Mhm.
Um, but and it still kind of feels like in our current, just like in the past few weeks and months, where this whole summer we're kind of like on the edge of our seat, like we have no idea what we're doing, and we don't. This is like, it's not that it's not working, like we're okay, but also like what the heck is going to happen next, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and I think in the coming like weeks and months, we'll have more clarity on what is next for us, but we just don't. There's just so many questions swirling around. And so I think that the Lord is just kind of like, again, with his finger is like pressing that point in my heart to say, like,
Mhm.
you don't need to have the answers of how all this stuff fits together yet. Like, you might not have all the answers until you get to heaven and I show
Yeah.
it all to you if I want to. And so, um, yeah, so just like being content with doing whatever the next right thing is and like being okay with that, and not, even if we don't fully understand it, and even if like if our parents don't fully understand it, if our friends don't fully, like whoever is speaking into it, like as long as we have wise counsel speaking into our lives, like that we trust and we know is praying for us, like everybody doesn't have to be in agreement with what we're doing next, you know.
Yeah.
um so
Wow. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think
that's
that's great. And I think like I remember I felt like so similarly whenever I quit my job in Huntsville and I came home,
mhm.
and I was like, God, I feel like we really could have gotten here. Like, we could have gotten to the end place without going this route. Like,
Yeah.
we could have gotten to the same destination without taking this path that was like extremely like painful. So like, I don't really get it. Like, we could have achieved the same end result. But I think
Yeah.
that it comes from this place of like, I think as kids, you're very much, it's like, just do it. And like, I don't really care if I don't really care what you think. Like, just do it. Like, just
Yeah.
get it done, do it. And I think that sometimes too, even as like a boss, I'm like, just be here at 6 a.m. Like, I don't really care. Like, like, just do what I'm asking you to do, please. Cause like, I'm
Yeah.
fatigued and like, but I think that like God doesn't operate that way. And I think that like God cares about the journey more than he cares about the destination. And I think God cares
Totally.
about what's happening on the inside more than he cares about what it looks like on the outside. And so
Yeah.
learning that like the final destination, aside from heaven, like I don't think God's as consumed by that as we are. I think God's
Mhm.
more consumed by like our development along the way, and whether that's
Totally.
happening in Huntsville or Birmingham or New York or Denver or Atlanta or wherever it's happening at, like
Yeah.
God's concerned about the final destination that is like his house in heaven, and like,
Mhm.
you know, what's going on inside of us. But like he's not like a well just do it, or this is what you're supposed to do, or like he's just
Yeah.
not, he doesn't operate that way, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. And so
But
I
at the
think that
same time,
that's
he's
yeah.
not always just gonna like get like it's not in his nature to like show you the whole picture of like, well,
Right.
this is why it had to play out this way, and this is why this is what you're gonna do next, so that it
Exactly.
can fit together and it's all gonna make sense when you're 80, you know, like he's
Right.
never gonna show you all of that. So you
Right.
just have to like take one step at a time. And like I've heard that phrase a lot the past couple of years. I feel like it's kind of been trendy of like just do the next right thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do the next right thing, and like knowing that very literally his word is like a lamp to our feet
not a
and a
spotlight.
light
Yeah.
to our path, not a spotlight, because if he showed me too much, I would run way out ahead. But if he showed me nothing, I would be paralyzed and wouldn't move. And so he just
Hmm.
shows me just enough to like take the next right step and do the next right
Yeah.
thing. Um, so it's good. That's a tough thing that I have it's like those things, like, you know it up here, but it takes a minute to work itself all the way down into like your bones, you know? And
Yeah.
it's something that I feel like we've both known since for the last however many 9 years, but it
Yeah.
just takes some time to work its way down.
Totally.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Hopes for 28. That's like the only thing I knew how to call it because it's not goals, or it's more like
I love the face you made when you said goals. You're like, ew,
it's not.
goals.
They're not goals. As much as I would
Goals?
like for them to be measurable goals, they're not.
They're not.
But
Goals, game night, things that will make
it.
Savannah crinkle up her nose. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Goodbye. No, because it's more like hopes slash like things that I'm sensing are going to be like worked through, I guess. And
Okay.
so, first one, this is in creativity, just the space of creativity. And this is interesting because it is in direct opposition to what I said about creativity last year. So last year, my goal around creativity was like consistency, 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 like just be putting your hand to this thing every single day. And I listened to a podcast. I should have recommended this as my content consumption, but I listened to a podcast with Joel Barnes, who is the guy who either wrote or helped write the Promises song by Maverick City that popped off in 2020.
Mhm.
And he's so young and he's so wise, but he was talking about like his creative process and like kind of how he got to where he is now. And he used the terms like be led, not driven. And like there's so many people in culture, especially like young creatives, who are so driven and they're very motivated and they work incredibly hard and they know how to produce, but like there's something really different and special about living a creative life that's led by, I mean, I guess you would say like by the Holy Spirit, but it's like I think that creativity really is a force, and there are days when you feel more creative than others. And I think that the consistency piece when it comes to like my art and really any like creative practice that I have, when I try to force it, I'm never happy with what I make. And I think like it's a hard balance and like a tension to manage because I always want to be getting better at my craft. But when it comes to like real art making, I want to be led by like creative energy, and like when I get it, I'm running with it rather than trying to like force my hand on something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. And it's I think it's so funny because if you scroll back, like anybody who's listening, scroll back to one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. I think a
We
year
were
ago,
obsessed with
we were
consistency.
obsessed with consistency. But I
Yeah.
think that it was like we needed it to frankly do 52 weeks. And now here we are again,
Yes.
like, you know, embarking on year two. So there are some areas where like you need consistency, right? Like, but I
Yeah.
think I'm with you, Sav, that and I was telling somebody else this, you know, there's like how my flesh, like how I usually tend, like if being balanced or whatever you want to call it, it's like middle of the road. I know that in my nature, like how God made me, I lean more into I'm going to work like crazy. I'm going to put
Yeah.
my hand to stuff. I'm going to go berserk. I'm going to work so hard. But I know that that's where I like lean.
Mm-hmm.
There are other people who lean more like I'm going to rest. I'm going to take my time. I'm not in a rush. I have no sense of urgency. Like some people lean that way. Those are the people that need the kick in the pants to go work really hard and be consistent.
That's so true.
Those of us who lean this way, don't nobody need to kick us in the pants.
No.
We don't need that. Like we
kick
good.
ourselves in the pants constantly.
Exactly. So like we don't need. And I think that this is like something that's helped me because I think even I experience this a lot in like church related things too. Like I would hear sermons on like, don't quit, never. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to quit even though it's killing me. Ah. But it's like, okay, that wasn't for me. Like that was not, that word was not for me because I'm literally going to, be, depressed and not eating and not sleeping before I quit something because somebody in a sermon one time told me to never quit, and it's like, okay, Sarah, the content on don't quit, be consistent. That's not for you, sweetie. That's not for you. That's for these other folks that are over here. The content for you is the rest, the be led, not driven. That's the content for you, honey. And like, understand that like, that's be based off your natural lean. Like if I know that I naturally lean this way, I don't think that God's calling me deeper into my own flesh. Like
that's so true.
God's probably calling me back closer to center, So it's like, Sarah, like
so good.
God's not calling me to be more like myself. God's calling me to hey, my yoke is easy. My burden's light. Like those are the scriptures for Sarah. I don't need the message on consistency.
And
I
what's
don't need
crazy,
the one on quitting. That's
so true. And what's crazy about it is like, I think our personality types that like, we don't struggle with the hustle. Like we don't, you need us to hustle. Okay, cool.
Done.
Like, we'll do it.
I did it yesterday.
When I hear a message or like a podcast, any kind of content about like, be consistent, hustle, like get it done. I'm like, yes! And I'm like, it just fuels my fire to like a toxic extent. Like,
yes, but then all it's doing, it's like it's just kicking up my own flesh. Like, and it's guys, and it's not to say obviously this is not 100% of the time, right? Like there was a season where like Sav and I both need, okay, we got to lock in consistency, 52 weeks, like. So it's not to say I never need the message on consistency, but like for me to consistently consume consistency content is going to drive my cortisol to high heaven. I can't do that. I need to be consuming the girl, go to sleep, girl, get some rest, girl, be led, not driven, like just be available, to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And like, he'll drive you from there. There are other folks who you better listen to that consistency podcast.
Right.
Just not me.
Not me. Not I.
Not I.
I need to you got to pull my reins back or I'm
exactly.
I will run myself into the ground is the issue.
And like, I just don't need anything. And I think for such a long time, I mean, I look back on that experience in Huntsville and I was consuming all this content that was like, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. I mean, you guys just listened to it. My solo episode. Hey, this is how you know when to quit.
Yeah.
I'm all about quitting. Quit. Just make sure that you need to quit, but like quit some things. That's okay. And just realizing, I don't know, like just everything that you're talking about, that I think for our personality types, it makes sense that like we don't need anybody cracking the whip over our heads,
true.
And that we can be led, not driven,
I love that language too. Just like being led, not driven. It feels so much more organic. And it like when I heard him say that, it kind of like took a weight off my shoulders where I was like, oh, I don't have to be forcing my hand on a canvas every single day to be a good artist. Like there are plenty of artists who are creating in rhythms, they're creating in seasons, and like that's a natural creative process. And I want to respect that process. Like any of you creatives out there, if you haven't read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, that's all she's talking about is like, which it's the theology behind it.
It's a little woo-woo.
A little bit woo-woo, but it is helpful. So that's the first one. Second one, and this is kind of like the grow up part that I feel like I'm still processing through in a way, but is I think that 28 is going to be the year where my selfish ambition gets thrust through and put 6 feet under.
At like our signature face of like we just ate a lemon, like.
But I think like real talk, I think this year I have realized I have a really unhealthy relationship with work and with career and with ambition. And I don't know what that's fueled by. And I don't know, like, I think my third goal of sorts, hope for 28 will explain this a little bit more, but I just think I have a really unhealthy relationship with it. And the concept of like making something of myself has really consumed me like for my entire life. And I think it's like stolen a lot of stuff from me and stolen a lot of my joy and stolen a lot of my ability to be content in my current season of life. Even though it's like for the past year, I've been preaching and harping on like, well, motherhood just like takes your focus and it, like you just have to embrace the season and yield to the season and blah blah blah. And it's like I'm saying all these things, but I'm still clinging to wanting to make something of myself. And so I think that this is going to be the year where it's like pew pew, that's going to get taken care of.
Yeah.
But I think I wrote this down. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, it's like I've had moments recently in this time period, however long it's going to last, of essentially being like a stay-at-home mom with Calvin, where like I do have so much margin, and I've had moments over the past few weeks where the Lord has like it legit feels like he's like beckoning me to come and like spend time with him, especially on the days when like my mornings don't get to look the way that I want them to, and I'm like, I would not have this margin if I was like being this hustling person who's like constantly trying to work and like build something of herself and make something of herself. And I had a moment on the back porch the other day where I'm just like journaling and praying, and I was like, Lord, like I would not trade this for anything. Like I really, if it's ever seemed like I would trade this for more money or trade this for more of a status or whatever by the world's terms, like just know I wouldn't trade this for anything right now, you know? And so yeah, the selfish ambition thing, I think it's caused me to be very double-minded. And I think one of my life goals that I'm still trying to put language to, I think, is like I want to know how to have like this appreciation for and like respect for the world and like art and culture and music and food and like all these things that I love to consume and look at and like appreciate, but also like have a boundary that like keeps me in love with God first and foremost. And I don't think that I know that balance yet. And so it keeps me like going on this pendulum that is emotionally exhausting. So that's that. And then the last one is this year, and then in specifically the next 2 years leading up to 30, I'm going to therapy officially. And I just know that I have so much to work through with like familial things. Like everybody has some sort of childhood wound that they have to work through, and like my relationship with work and my relationship with like with ambition and how to like understand myself in the world, because I legit think I have like a skewed vision of like how I fit into society and how I fit into like family life and all these things. And so I think that leading up to 30, this is another thing that Joel talked about in his podcast is or I guess it was an interview of him with Rita Springer, who's a really well-known worship leader and songwriter. And she was talking about how a lot of people say in your 20s you're spending your whole 20s figuring it out what it is that you're called to do and who you are and like what it is that you're going to bring to the world. And then you spend your 30s and 40s like living that out and creating and producing, and like you're confident and you know who you are and you're like doing the thing. And then the rest of your decades you're giving it all away and you're teaching and you're mentoring and all of that. And I'm like, okay, I've got 2 more years until I turn 30, and I want to go into that decade and the decades to follow as like I know who I am, I know what it is that I am put on this earth to do, and I know what it like I know practically what I'm doing to like get there. And like I'm not dealing with all of the emotional turmoil anymore of this nonsense that I'm currently sitting in. So I'm very excited to go to therapy, guys, once I get my health insurance. But once your girl gets
once
I
do,
I will be finding
it's
a
over for
counselor.
y'all. It's over for y'all.
Mom, don't panic if you listen to this. I'm fine.
No, but I think that's so cool though. Like this, like to acknowledge the beautiful things in the world while also like nobody's life is better than my life. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
other people, you guys have a great life. I can see other people's lives on the internet and like your life's great, but like nobody's life's better than my life. Like my life
Yeah.
is, and I remember like years and years and years ago, I was listening to this podcast, these two guys talking. And one of the things that they were talking about was like, whatever we're putting our hand to, it is the biggest, coolest, most important thing in the world. Like it is the big
Mhm.
time. Like there is nothing bigger or cooler or more exciting than like what I'm building in my life right this very second. Like what God's
Yeah.
doing, what's happening, like the cool things that are happening in my family or at the context was these two guys are pastors, like what's happening in their church or their connect groups or their small groups. Like that was the big time. And I think like the way
Mhm.
that they talked about comparison was like it's, and I think it also ties in a little bit with like some level of like delusion too. Like how am I can't compare myself because like what's going on in my life is just on and popping, you know? And like what everyone else is doing is cool, but like have you seen what's happening in my household, in my church, in my
Mhm.
workplace? And you know, and I think that um being able to like appreciate other people's stuff without like despising what you do or don't have
Yeah.
is girl, it's something that we're all working on, dude. Like
Mhm.
that's definitely, I don't think you're alone in that. I think you probably just spoke to, myself included, a lot of people who are probably dealing with those same feelings and are probably exhausted by the same things that you're exhausted by. And I think you're gonna have a lot of people kind of like, okay, Sav, tell us what you learned because we all hate feeling this way. Because I think
Yeah.
there's so many people who are living in the exact same, you know, horrible, like ugly feeling of like, oh, I want to love my life, but like everyone else's life just seems so much cooler. And like,
Yeah.
I think we all want to get out of that. And so I'm excited to like hear you continue to hopefully share that with us and share that with the people who listen to our call every week, because I think there are going to be a lot of people who are like, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to feel that way either, you
Can
know?
you share? Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm like I'm fully prepared for when I talk about this in like a 2-year increment. Like I fully am prepared mentally for this stuff to like take until I'm 30 or maybe longer to like work through. Um and I'm just ready to I think I've spent a lot of time like I do a lot of journaling, I do a lot of praying, but I don't think that I've really valued how much I could use an older I'm not even like I mean I guess an older woman. I don't even care if it's a man or a woman, but like
Mm-hmm.
just an older wiser voice to that's unbiased, doesn't know me, to be able to like pick apart my story and the things that have happened to me and the things that I've done to myself and like how is this all compiled into like who you are today and like how you can just like go into the future decades of your life as like a healed soul, you know? Um
Yeah.
so
And
therapy
people
to
who
therapy
like
I
know
go.
how the brain works. I put so much
Yeah.
stock in like y'all have studied this, because again, like we journal and we pray and like, you know, I believe in all that stuff. Obviously I do it every day, but like
Mhm.
there is something for like, no, there's something biological in here. Like there is
Mhm.
something about science knows how all this goes together, and I need to know that. Like that for me felt like a missing piece too. I'm
Yeah,
like,
so
how
true.
does all these different pieces and parts of me, like how does my body work, you know?
Yeah.
That's helpful too.
And yeah, I don't think that it really started to occur to me how little I understand of that stuff until I've been joking about this the past few episodes, but I'm like I come to this moment every couple of weeks where I'm like I think I have a personality disorder. Like I've just I can be convinced to a T that this is right and this is what we're gonna do. And then 24 hours later, I'm like, no, this is it. The opposite direction is the right thing. And I'm like, there's something cuckoo in here. Something is not right. I've got to figure this
I
out.
need you guys to help me. Help. But that's why I seriously, like, I took a leadership development course like that was taught by psychiatrists, and I'm like, y'all are the only people I want talking to me from here on out. Like, because y'all know, you know, there's a portion of my brain that gets tired and needs to be recharged. And this whole time I'm like, am I just burnt out? Am I broken? Am I lazy? Am I unable to focus? Like, is my brain broken? And it's like, no, there's a literal part of your brain that like makes decisions that gets fatigued, and like if you don't put it on the charger, it's going to cease to operate. And so that's why you need to take breaks and slow down and do all this stuff. And I also feel like it felt more authoritative too. Like anybody can tell me to like, oh, you should take a nap or take a break or rest. But when somebody who knows what my brain is telling me that, like, you're basically a doctor. Like, this is medical, like I need to relax. And so I think that, it has helped me a lot. And I think like, a lot of other people who it's helped. So I think that's going to be dope. I really do.
Totally. I'm excited. I'm very excited for it. So only time shall tell. We'll check back in at 29 and see how it's going. but yeah. So guys, that's what's up with on 27.
Well, hey,
what's
I'm so
next
excited
in
for
28.
you.
Thank you.
I'm happy almost birthday. Happy birthday week. Guys, give Savannah some love on the internet. It's her birthday. We're so excited.
Love birthday.
I know, me too. I love it for you. I'm really excited. It's going to be great.
Well, I guess we should wrap her up and put a birthday bow on her.
Birthday bow.
Sarah, what are you excited about today?
I am excited because I have nailed down how I do my hair. Oh. I say that it's been 2 weeks, so I don't fully know. But us, me and you, like, we'll say that we've discovered it and we've been doing it for 3 days. Like, I'm in this new routine and it's like it's been 72 hours. Yeah. It's like I have this new way of doing my hair. But so I blow out my hair with like a blow dry brush, like a round brush. Mm-hmm. Shout out to, I almost said 401 babe, but Jonathan, fiance, love of my life. Shout out to you. He got me this like blow dry brush. And so I blow out my hair with that. And then, those little like U-shaped things that like people will put over their heads and like braid their hair around it. Mm-hmm. So I sleep with, that's night one. So the blow dry at night. Okay. Night one, you sleep with that thing, like the big U shape over your head. The
heatless curls.
The heatless curler thing. Okay. And that curls you up real nice. But then night 2 through the end, I literally have it over here mostly because I just took my hair out and I wanted to show it to you because I think it's so cool. It's this thing I got on the internet. It's called a sleepy tie. This is free advertising for them, I guess. You can sponsor us if you want. But it's like this like hard thing right here. And then it has like a double scrunchy thing. And you like put your hair in a bun on the top of your head and you like wrap it all the way around. Okay. And then you like scrunchy it closed and it's this big bun on the top of your head. But I just get the best, waviest, voluminous like blowout that just stays for like pretty much a week. And I'm loving it. I think that this is going to help me a lot with figuring out how I'm going to do my hair for the wedding. I don't totally know how I'm going to do it, but like, I think this little mechanism helps. I'm also testing out nail colors for the wedding. I got to go get my nails redone. I'm testing out nail colors. So I'm just excited. I'm doing all these little like hair and makeup and nail hacks all in the name of my big day that is forthcoming.
That is so exciting.
That's what I'm excited about. So I'm just doing all kinds of like fun girly stuff over here. But yeah, that's me. What are you excited about? What's going on with you?
I am excited about my birthday, but also excited, I would say more so for the week after, because Christian and I are celebrating 5 years of marriage.
5 years.
5 years, half a decade. I know. I feel way too young to have been married for 5 years, but
that's crazy.
Will have been married on 5 years on August 31st. So I'm excited. We're going to be in Charlotte, which I've mentioned a few times. But we're going to leave Calvin with my dad and stepmom and have a little evening out to ourselves in a new city that we've never been in, and it's going to be a blast. So,
that's so cool. Yeah, that's so cool. Congrats.
It's going to be fun. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So your birthday and your wedding were a week apart.
Yes. A week and a day. Yeah.
My birthday and my wedding are going to be a week. I'm crying. What?
Yeah. But your birthday, yours
so
is after.
Aligned.
But yours is after.
So my wedding and my birthday are going to be, my wedding comes first, then my birthday. They are 6 days apart. Mm-hmm. Your birthday, then your wedding, and they're 8 days apart.
Yep.
I knew we were best friends.
We couldn't have designed it better if we
in this moment. Like, this genuinely, guys, is occurring to me for the first time as we're recording this podcast. That's the cutest thing. Like, isn't that so cute?
It's cute. It's like, in my head, I can't figure out why it's a big deal, but it's cute.
It's a big deal. Both of our birthdays and both of our anniversaries being so lined up.
Yeah.
Whatever. sound off in the comments. You guys know this is a big deal. It doesn't matter what Savannah thinks. It just matters what me and all of you who are listening thinks.
It's like, why? Why are you
Why are you crying? Who cares? It's like, no, this is so special. What? Like, this is so special. Savannah could care less. Anyway, I'm turning my head because I'm just talking to you guys now. I'm not talking to her. Please sound off in the comments and let Savannah know that this is important.
No, it's
Goodbye.
the last half of August and the first half of October. Superb times to be alive. If you're
They're just a big deal.
So
they're just a big deal. Speaking of Lowry, I was texting him and I literally spelled my future last name wrong. He's like, "You spelled it wrong." I was like, "Cool."
I spelled it wrong when I was designing your invitation, the first draft. So it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, all right, land the plane. Land the plane.
Okay, thank you guys for listening / watching to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. Be sure to like this video and subscribe on YouTube and hit the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And follow us on Instagram at Call Me Thursday podcast. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review and let us know why you're loving the pod. So Sarah, I will call you Thursday.
Sounds like a plan, sister. I'll call you Thursday.
Okay, bye.
Bye.